I'm at my usual place in Warrington, which is of course Into Moto, and quite recently I've been doing a lot of videos involving the 125cc sports bikes, and I've done a few speed tests. I've had a great time. So a few people have made the same comment, which is if I'm going to do a speed test, I should try Suzuki's GSXR 125 because that's the fastest. And Into Moto had one. So you know what's coming. It's the GSXR 125. So here it is in this lovely blue and silver colour, definitely my favourite colour scheme, the blue. So before I start going around this, I want to just point out, because I know people will do it in the comments, I know that these 4-stroke versions, the 4-stroke 125 sports bikes, are not as fast as the 2-stroke 125s that we used to have years ago. Even the police and ambulance know that the 2-stroke sports bikes, the 125s, they were faster. They were. But European regulations and all the emissions compliance tamed them down a bit. So we've gone from 30 horsepower beasts, because that's what the 125s used to be, the 2-stroke engines, to bikes like this, which is, to be fair, right on the maximum of what's legally allowed in the UK now for a 125cc, which is 15 horsepower. So this is right at the top end. Let's have a look around the usual way. Let me know in the comments what you think of this bike or any other 125 sports bike, because if they've got them, I will ride them and I'll test them for you. But let's have a look around this one. It's the usual way. Let's start with this nice close-up. They are lovely, these bikes. From side on, they look beautiful. Very similar shape to other Suzuki GSXRs. But it's just the weediness of it. It's quite a slimmed down version compared to other 125s. It looks quite slim. And it makes it look smaller. It's still a lovely looking bike, don't get me wrong, but it just looks like a 125, whereas a lot of the bikes I've been on recently, they've looked bigger. Standard can on this one, and it has just got the single disc at the front, single disc at the back. I'll test those brakes out when we do the test ride very shortly. Just a side stand on this one, and to save you asking, it is a chain drive as well. Seat looks comfortable, nice wide seat. We'll see how that fares when I park my backside on. And there is a rear seat for pillion, but there is no grab handles. There is some rear pegs. Fairly basic when it comes to buttons. You have got your horn, indicators, high-low beam and a flash, so standard. And on the right hand side, engine start, you've got your hazard lights and there's an engine cut off. Now this bike is keyless, but you do have to carry a fob. It's got an 11 litre fuel tank, and figures suggest it will do over 100 miles per gallon. So let me know if you've got one. Let me know what sort of miles per gallon you're getting out of it. Now this one has had this tank sticker put on, a bit of protection so it's not being scratched every time you sit on it. Yeah, that's, I suppose, down to individual taste. I actually like it. I think it suits the bike. It's another low seat height, so brilliant for a little legged man like myself. This has got less than 800mm seat height. I've got short legs, 29-inch inseam. I've got flat foot both sides. I've got bend in my knee as well. I've got quite a lot of room here. And the seat height is down as 785mm, which I think is really low. Will suit a shorter rider. Bear that in mind. If you are, however, one of these giants, if you're over 6 foot tall, if you're considering one of these, go down, to a place that's got one, come down to Into Moto. They generally always have one or two in the showroom. Sit on it and see how it feels for you, because the seat height is low. Position wise, yeah, it's not bad actually. You leant forward a little bit. I can feel a little bit of weight on the wrist, but it's certainly no different to the other sports bikes I've been on recently. Go down and sit on one if you're considering one of these bikes. It's another light bike as well. So this is 134 kilograms. So if I'm not mistaken, that's identical to Honda's CBR, which is a very light bike. And just walking the bike, yeah, it's really light, really easy to push around the garage, the shed, wherever you're putting it. This bit of car park here is actually uphill, and it's rolling really, really easily. No effort at all. So if the weight of the bike is something that is of concern for you, there's no concerns with this, because it's light and easy to push around. The only thing left for me to do now is to take it for a ride. Yes, I am going to do a speed test, because everybody's told me just how good these are and how these are the ones to beat. So I want to see, is it on par with those other bikes that I've tried recently? In particular, Yamaha's R125, which I found to be the fastest. I am curious. So yeah, let's go. Remember, this is a standard bike. So standard can. Hopefully the mic picks this up. That doesn't sound like any 125. Not with a standard can anyway. They're usually a bit more high pitched than that. So far I like the sound. So as far as the screen goes, this is actually quite a nice screen. It's quite basic. It's not a TFT screen, but you do have the rev counter going across the top. You've got a nice prominent speedo. There's a clock, there's a gear indicator, there's a fuel gauge, and there's your total miles. So this bike's got 3,206 miles. The bike itself is 3 years old, and it's up for sale for £3,499. So price wise, it's very similar to a lot of the bikes I've tried recently. It's cheaper than the Yamaha, but I did love the Yamaha. It's around the same price as the KTM RC 125 that I've been on recently. It feels nippy. I'm getting that feeling already. Just the slightest touch on the throttle. It sounds really good. I can't stress this enough. The noise out of this just doesn't feel or sound like a 125. I did like the Honda CBR that I've been on recently. The exhaust note on that was absolutely stunning. But that was an aftermarket can, so someone's paid probably a fair few £100 extra on top of the price to get that, whereas this is coming as a standard. So as a standard can, I don't think I would change this. See what it's like properly when I wind it on a little bit. It does feel quick in comparison to those other bikes I've been on. It does, it picks up speed really quickly. The one thing I am finding, however, is the seating position. Even for somebody as small as myself, it does feel like a smaller bike. When you sat on it, I feel like I've got to properly push myself back a little bit, because I do feel too big for it. And I've never said that. I don't even think I said that about a monkey bike. It just feels like quite a small bike. Quick, but quite small. So let's see what it's like on this roundabout. We've got a bit of a bend on a roundabout. I'm not going to do many twisty roads today. That's actually quite good. It does just glide around the bend, so that's a plus point for me. That just goes to show, doesn't it? It's really well balanced. Just point it in a direction and it's going to follow it, and then when it comes to your bends, just the slightest push on either left or right of the bar and you're just gliding around the bend. So it's very easy to ride. As far as a sports bike goes, it's very confidence inspiring as well. So far so very, very good. Nice little van. Speaking of vans, I think I want a van. Oh, and there's one in front. I would be interested to know people's views on this as well. I am thinking about buying a van, but not a big van that is just for my bikes. It'd have to be like a daily, because I'm not that flush. I'll be swapping my car for a van, so it'll be my winter driver, and it's got to be big enough to fit my off-road bike in the back. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. I am curious. I've already asked a few people and everybody is very mixed in their views of what I should get, and I don't know. And I keep looking at this Transit Custom in front and that looks decent, but let me know if you've got a van that you use in particular for your off-road bikes. Let me know if you've had a good experience or a bad one, because I don't want a bad experience. It's going to be my daily driver, so I'm not going to be buying any high mileage hero. It's going to be newish, low miles, I should imagine. That's what I'll go for. I'm not looking for something with 1 million miles, because I'll be using it for my day job as well. Not that I need a van for my day job, but I'll be using it to go to and from work in my day job is what I mean. Anyway, back to the bike. So it's typical 125, little bit of filtering, not an issue. It's actually, I suppose, the benefit of being a particularly small bike. It isn't particularly wide, the bars are quite narrow, the tank is quite narrow, everything about the bike is quite narrow. So yeah, it's good for sneaking through traffic. I've just done an uphill section on a national speed limit road. Now, normally, even the best performing 125s that I've been on, they struggle to get up to 55 mile an hour. They do. They struggle to get to that speed. They're all right on the flat, but the uphill section, they really struggle on. This got to 60. That bodes well for this bike as far as power goes, because it seems quick. Right, anyway, just to show there's no cheating, so I'm in my usual place. There's the grid on the floor, front wheel just in front of it, so I'm in my usual starting place. If you've never seen the channel before, quick recap to this test. So down this road, there's a slight bend and then a bit of a straight and then a sharper bend on your left, which is just before the white house that you can see far in the distance there. Now, when I've done comparisons non-sporty bikes, so like your naked sports and scooters and anything else I can get my hands on, none of them have got to 60 mile an hour by the time I get to the sharp bend, which is just before the white house. When I've done a couple of sports bikes, so Yamaha's R125, Honda's CBR 125, and KTM's C125, and also Lexmoto's LXS 125. I've had varying success. So what we've had is there is a tree on the left hand side down there, and the Yamaha R125 got to 60 mile an hour before I got to that tree. The Honda got to it just after the tree, and the KTM got it just before the sharp bend. So those three all made 60, but vary in different places, with so far the Yamaha being the fastest. The Lex Moto, no, that was like any other 125 really. It was just short of 60. I think it was about 57 or something by the time it got to the sharp bend, but then it got to 60 on the straight. So that's kind of like a lot of the other 125s that I've done previously. Now this bike, I'm a bit excited with this because weight wise it's about the same weight as the Honda, but it's got the same horsepower as the KTM, which is bang on 15. So it's got more horsepower than the Honda. So I'm expecting it to be quicker than the Honda. Well, the Yamaha was a little bit quicker than the Honda. So I want to see, is this quicker than the Yamaha? If it's even similar to the Yamaha, it's a good performing 125, because the Yamaha so far has been the fastest. And yeah, by quite a bit. In fact, no, unfair on the Honda. The Honda was a little bit behind the Yamaha. Now I want to leave myself a decent run up. I don't want to pull out behind a car that's only doing 50, because then the test is kind of ruined. Alright, that's gonna do me. Let's go. Oh, there's the tree. Wow. Okay. Okay, you were all right. Well done, and give yourself a pat on the back. Oh dear. Wow. That is quite a bit faster. Wow. Speechless. Absolutely speechless. So this bike then got to 60 mile an hour, and it got to 60 mile an hour probably, I don't know, maybe a couple of car lengths before what the Yamaha did. So it is a little bit faster than the Yamaha R125, but that's not the big story with this bike. It's the fact that it just kept going. Like the other bikes, I've kind of got to the straight bit and I've kind of pinned it a little bit just to see, and they've kind of maybe creeped over 60 a little bit, okay, but only a little bit. This, yeah, 60 was, well, it got a little bit past 60, but it did it easily, to the point that I have absolutely no doubts. This is the fastest 125 that I've now been on, so it's took the crown. Really is a quick little thing, this. Impressive. Anyway, you know me, I get a bit carried away with the old speed test. I can't help myself, I get a bit giddy. But anyway, let's move on. The overall ride of this bike. Now, speed, yes, it smashes the competition. Like, quite easily smashes the competition, to be fair. When you look at just speed alone, yeah, it's the best. But when you look at other things, so consider comfort as one. The seat's comfortable, but I am getting sore wrists. I've been riding for a short time, but I'm getting sore wrists, and that is not a great thing for me. So yeah, it's fun and you can absolutely fly, and if you were thinking of a 125 track day bike, then this has to be the winner. Has to be, because it does feel the quickest as standard. So it's good for the speed and all of that. But if you're thinking of a bike to ride around the streets on and you're going to be riding for hours, then it's not the most comfortable. It's not. Sore wrists, and a bad back is to be expected, especially if you're carrying a few pounds like I am. So that's one thing. The next thing is just size, and I think the size probably helps with the weight, which helps with the speed. So size wise, it's a very, very small bike. You don't feel like you're on a big motorcycle, you feel like you're on a tiny motorcycle. The brakes are really impressive. That's probably why I'm getting sore wrists as well, because you can pick up speed quickly, but as soon as you slam on those brakes, you do notice your body weight just going forward, because it does stop very, very quickly. So because it stops quickly, it means all your weight is pushing forward. What I'm whinging at really is more me being fat and being heavy than the bike having any issues itself, because the bike does exactly what it's supposed to. It does. I can't really complain about the bike. I can complain about my weight and how the bike is not really suited for a middle-aged fat man. Yes, I can complain about that, but that's not the bike's fault, that's my fault. Because ultimately, the bike itself is lovely to ride. It's going through the gears beautifully. It accelerates like an absolute weapon. It goes round the bends as good as any bike I've ever ridden. And I'm talking even bigger bikes. It just glides around. And I didn't expect that, because it has got quite thin, slim wheels. And I thought it was going to be... yeah, I didn't think it was going to be as good around the bends. So it has shocked me a little bit with how good it has actually been. It sounds good, another positive. It looks good, another positive. I'm not really finding any negatives to this bike other than the negative of me being fat. And do you know, that is the thing I would say with this bike. If you are not carrying extra weight, if you're not the tallest person, because again, I don't think it's going to be very suitable for taller riders just because of the size. But if you are maybe less than 5'10", something like that, you probably get away with it. If you're less than 5'10" and a slim Jim or Slim Jane, you know, I'm not sexist, but if you are slim, this bike is absolutely perfect. It is perfect. It's my problem, not the bike problem, and that's the thing with it. It is the fastest bike I've done on the speed test. It is. It beats the R125. I love the R125. I love the colour scheme. I love that bike. That bike has sold. It sold very quickly. My video, I think the day my video come out, it had sold. So that bike's gone. This bike is faster than that bike. Looks wise, always subjective. Comfort, riding position, I think I prefer the R125 just because it feels a little bit bigger. It's still a bit wrist heavy, but I don't feel as scrunched up with that bike like I do with this one. So I think comfort and riding position, the Yamaha R125 is a more comfortable fit for me because I'm carrying a bit of extra weight. It ticks a lot of boxes, but for me it just feels a little bit too small for a middle-aged fat man. So if that describes you, then I would say the Yamaha R125 or the Honda CBR is probably going to be a better fit for you. However, for anybody else who is a little bit slimmer, who is less than 5'10", something like that, this bike is the perfect 125 sports bike. It will be an absolute dream for you. I really enjoyed riding it today. I think if I was thinner, I'd probably say that this was the perfect bike for me. But it's, yeah, I'm not. So, yeah, I'd have to go for something a little bit belly friendlier. However, you know, don't let it put you off. If you're interested in this, It's for sale at Into Moto, and you should be interested in it because it is awesome. It's awesome. And for the price, for £3,499, this bike is, I think, a really good price for a low mileage bike that's only 3 years old. Yeah, I do. I think it's a really good value bike. So if you're interested, I'll put a link in the description. And be quick, because these videos, as they're coming out, the bikes don't tend to last much longer after that. So yeah, be quick if it's a bike you're interested in. For now, I'm gonna go back inside Into Moto and see if there's anything else I can play on. For now though, I'll catch you on the next one. Laters.